The alarm system screamed across Coalition Station Apex 9. Ambassador dropped her morning tea and ran to the command center. Officers from a dozen different alien species rushed past her in the corridors. Something big was happening. "What's going on?" demanded as she entered the bustling room. The station commander, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms, turned to her. "We detected a ship, an old one. It's broadcasting Earth identification codes." His heart skipped. "Earth codes? Which ship?" "The computer says it's the Promise." The commander looked confused. "But that makes no sense. That ship disappeared 847 years ago." Felt the blood drain from her face. She knew that name. Every human in the galaxy knew that name. This Promise had been Earth's first deep space exploration vessel. It vanished with 200 crew members on board. Her own great-great-great-grandmother had been one of them. "That's impossible," whispered. "The codes are authentic," the commander said. "We're sending ships to intercept." Grabbed his arm. "I'm going with them." 3 hours later, stood in the docking bay of a Coalition patrol ship. Through the window, she could see it. This Promise looked exactly like the old photos. The hull was ancient by modern standards, but it wasn't damaged. In fact, it looked almost new. "They're responding to our hails," the pilot announced. A voice crackled through the speakers. It spoke Korean. "This is Captain of the Earth vessel's Promise. We request immediate transport to Earth. We have important cargo." His hands shook. She pressed the communication button. "Captain, this is Ambassador, human representative to the Galactic Coalition. I need to ask you something. What year do you think it is?" There was a long pause. "It's 2247. We left Earth in 2244. Why are you asking me this?" Closed her eyes. "Captain, the year is 3091. You've been gone for 847 years." The silence that followed was terrible. Finally, spoke again, his voice shaking. "That's not possible. We've only been gone 3 years." "I know this is hard to understand," said gently, "but I need you to allow us to dock. We need to talk face to face." Another pause. "Understood. We'll open our docking port." When stepped aboard this Promise, she felt like she was walking through a museum. Everything was old but functional. The corridor lights were the yellow kind that Earth stopped using centuries ago. The walls were painted instead of being made from smart metal. It was like stepping back in time. Captain was waiting for her. He was young, maybe 40 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes. Behind him stood a woman in a science officer's uniform. "Ambassador," said. His voice was controlled but could see the fear in his eyes. "This is Doctor, my chief science officer." Nodded. She looked even more shaken than the captain. "Is it true? Has it really been that long?" "I'm afraid so," said. "Everyone you knew on Earth is dead. The world has changed completely." Steadied himself against the wall. "We need to see Earth. We need to go home." "I understand," said carefully. "But Coalition protocol requires inspection of any unknown vessel, especially one that's been missing for this long. We need to scan your ship and interview your crew." "No," his voice was firm. "There are sections of this ship you cannot inspect." Frowned. "Captain, I'm trying to help you. But if you refuse inspection, the Coalition will assume you're hiding something dangerous." "We are hiding something dangerous," said suddenly. "But it's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is," pleaded. And exchanged a long look. Finally spoke. 3 years ago by our time, we entered what we thought was a wormhole. It took us to a place far from here, very far. We called it the Deep Dark because the stars there were old and dying. We found something there," continued. "Ruins, a dead civilization. They were ancient beyond anything we could imagine, and they left something behind." "What did they leave?" asked. "Weapons," said quietly. "Technology that shouldn't exist. When we activated their computers, they showed us what these devices could do. They showed us wars that destroyed entire star systems. They showed us weapons that could tear holes in reality itself. Felt cold. Why did you bring them back? Because the repository had a message, explained. It said the weapons were waiting for a species that could pass their tests. We didn't mean to activate the tests, but we did, and we passed. What kind of tests? Demanded. Psychological ones, said. The computer scanned us, scanned our brains, our thoughts, our decision-making patterns. It ran us through simulations we didn't even know were happening. After 3 months, it told us we were worthy. Worthy of what? Of taking the weapons, said. Of becoming what they called guardians. The computer said that every other species that found the repository failed the tests. They used the weapons wrong or tried to use them for conquest. The weapons destroyed them. His mind raced. Does the coalition know about this? Not yet, said, but they will soon. Our scans are probably showing unusual energy signatures. As if on cue, his communicator buzzed. The coalition commander's voice was urgent. Ambassador, get off that ship now. Our sensors are detecting something we've never seen before. Whatever they're carrying, it's incredibly dangerous. Looked at, I need to tell them something. Tell them the truth, said. Tell them that Earth has something powerful, and tell them that we're not giving it up. That's going to start a war, said. Maybe, replied. But we didn't survive 3 years in the deep dark, didn't solve impossible puzzles, didn't earn the right to carry these weapons, just to hand them over to the first person who asks. The repository chose humanity for a reason. What reason? Asked. Smiled, but it was a sad smile. That's what we need to find out, but we think it has something to do with why we didn't use the weapons immediately, why we came home first, why we want to protect rather than conquer. Every other species failed that test, added, but humans didn't, and now we have to figure out what to do with that responsibility. Took a deep breath. Through the window she could see coalition ships gathering. More were arriving every minute. Soon there would be dozens, then hundreds. Captain, she said slowly, I hope you're right about humanity, because in a few hours the entire galaxy is going to be demanding answers, and depending on what we tell them, this could either be humanity's greatest moment or our last one. Nodded, then I guess we'd better make it count. Outside, the coalition fleet continued to grow, surrounding the ancient Earthship that carried weapons no civilization should possess. Inside, a crew that had lost 800 years tried to understand what they had become. And in the space between, Ambassador realized that she stood at the edge of history, watching humanity step into a role it never asked for but might be the only species fit to fill. Coalition Station, Meridian 7, was the largest military installation in this sector of space. This promise sat in its quarantine bay, surrounded by force fields and armed guards from 20 different species. Captain stood at his ship's window, watching the alien soldiers watch him. They're afraid, said Engineer Jin, standing beside him. The weapons specialist had been part of the team that first explored the ancient repository. Good, they should be. Don't say things like that, warned. We're trying to convince them we're not a threat. Aren't we? Asked quietly. Before could answer, his communicator buzzed. It was Ambassador. Captain, the Galactic High Council wants to speak with you and Doctor. They're sending a shuttle. 2 hours later and stood before the High Council. The chamber was enormous, with seats for representatives from hundreds of worlds. Most of those seats were full, stood near the back, watching nervously. At the center sat Admiral Nam, a member of the species. He was massive, with silver skin and 3 glowing eyes. His voice boomed across the chamber. Captain, you claim to carry weapons from an extinct civilization. The Council demands you surrender these weapons immediately. Stood straight. With respect, Admiral, I refuse. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Admiral Nam raised his hand for silence. You refuse. Do you understand what you're saying? The Coalition has laws. Ancient weapons technology is banned. These laws have kept peace for 10,000 years. I understand, said, but these weapons are different. They were meant for humanity. Explain, commanded a voice from the right. It belonged to Counselor Song, a human who had served on the council for 30 years. She looked at with hard eyes. I am human too, Captain, but I serve the Coalition first. Tell us why we shouldn't arrest you right now. Doctor stepped forward. May I speak? Admiral Nam nodded. Proceed. Activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above her. When we entered the anomaly, we experienced time dilation. What felt like 3 years for us was centuries for the rest of the galaxy. The anomaly brought us to a region of space we called the Deep Dark. There, we found a planet orbiting a dying red star. The hologram showed a dead world covered in ruins. This civilization was old, billions of years old. They had technology that makes our most advanced systems look like stone tools, but they were gone, dead for eons. We found their repository buried deep underground, continued. Inside were weapons, not guns or missiles, but devices that manipulate fundamental forces, reality itself. Admiral Nam leaned forward. Show us. Looked at, he nodded. She signaled Engineer, who was watching from this promise. Engineer Jin, bring the demonstrator. 15 minutes later, entered the chamber carrying a small metal box. Coalition guards surrounded him, weapons ready. He placed the box on a table and opened it. Inside was a device the size of a human hand. It looked simple, almost crude, just a cylinder with some buttons. This is one of the smallest weapons, explained. We call it a matter disassembler. Watch. He placed a block of titanium on the table, the same titanium used in Coalition warship hulls. He aimed the device and pressed a button. The titanium block simply stopped existing. There was no flash, no sound. One moment it was there, the next it was gone, completely, not destroyed or melted, just erased from reality. The chamber went silent. That was a 1 centimeter beam at minimum power, said calmly. At full power, it can erase a starship. At maximum range, it can reach across a solar system. Impossible, breathed a reptilian counselor. Nothing can do that. The ancients could, said, and they left these weapons for whoever could pass their tests. Admiral Nam stood. Then you must understand why we cannot allow any single species to possess such power. Humanity must surrender these weapons to the Council. They will be destroyed for the safety of all. No, said simply. Captain, you're not hearing me. Admiral Nam's voice grew dangerous. This is not a request. If you refuse, we will take them by force. You can try, said, but you won't succeed. Counselor spoke up, anger in her voice. Is that a threat, Engineer? It's a fact, interjected. The weapons are biologically locked. They only respond to human neural patterns. We didn't design it that way. The ancient civilization did. She displayed more data. We ran tests for months. The weapons scanned the user's brain structure, DNA, and something else we don't fully understand. Some kind of psychological signature. Only humans match the required pattern. You're lying, accused a counselor from the Vex species. You're trying to keep the weapons for yourselves. Test it, challenged. He held out the device. Go ahead, try to use it. Admiral Nam gestured to one of his guards, a soldier. The guard approached carefully and took the device. He aimed it at a test block and pressed the button. Nothing happened. He pressed it again, still nothing. Let me try, said another counselor, a being made of living crystal. Same result, nothing. They passed the device around. 30 different species tried. None of them could activate it. This proves nothing, Admiral Nam said. You could have programmed it to only work for you. We're not that smart, said honestly. This technology is beyond us. We're just the ones who found it. and according to the repository's records, were the only species in galactic history to pass all the tests. What tests? Counselor demanded. Pulled up more data. The repository was alive, not in the way we understand life but conscious. It studied us. Every day for 3 months it ran scenarios, problems we had to solve, moral dilemmas, strategic decisions. We didn't even know we were being tested. What was it testing for? Asked a small, floating counselor. We're not entirely sure, admitted. But we have theories. It seemed to value creativity, the ability to find unexpected solutions. It valued cooperation, the way our crew worked together, and it valued something the translation called protective restraint. What does that mean? Counselor asked. Spoke up. It means that even when we found these weapons, even when we learned what they could do, our first thought wasn't how to use them. It was whether we should use them at all. The repository showed us records, said. Other species found it over the eons. Hundreds of them. All failed the tests. Most failed because the moment they got power they wanted to use it, to conquer, to dominate. Some failed because they wanted to destroy the weapons. The repository said that was cowardice. So what did humanity do differently? Admiral Nam asked. We were curious, said. We studied the weapons, we understood them, but we didn't use them. Even when we were lost and scared, even when we thought we might die in the deep dark, we never once fired these weapons in anger or fear. We wanted to bring them home, explained, to Earth, to let humanity decide together what to do with them. That's what the repository called wisdom. The ability to wait, to think, to choose protection over power. The chamber was quiet. Then Ambassador spoke from the back. Captain, what happens if another species tries to take the weapons by force? His expression darkened. The repository warned us about that. The weapons have if anyone tries to steal them or force a human to use them, the weapons will destroy themselves, and everything within 10,000 kilometers. The chamber erupted again. Counselors shouted accusations. Some called a liar, others called him a terrorist. Admiral Nam raised his hand. Silence, Captain, you're asking us to trust humanity with weapons that could destroy the galaxy. Why should we? Because we're the only ones who can carry them, said. And because if you attack us to take them, everyone dies. Not just us. Everyone in this station. Maybe everyone in this system. Counselor stood. Her face was pale. This is insane. Captain, I am ordering you as a human and as a counselor to surrender those weapons. Met her eyes. No, counselor, our crew voted, all 200 of us. Unanimous. The weapons stay with humanity. We'll use them to protect, never to conquer, but we won't give them up. Then you've declared war on the coalition, Admiral Nam said quietly. Outside the chamber, coalition fleet ships began moving into attack positions around this promise. Inside the ancient Earthship, 200 crew members prepared for what might be their last stand. And in the council chamber, humanity's fate hung in the balance, dependent on trust that had never existed and weapons that could end everything. The emergency session on Earth lasted 18 hours. General Wu stood before the Global Council, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. Behind him, holographic displays showed this promise surrounded by coalition warships. The situation is simple, General Wu said. Our people are trapped. The coalition wants weapons we barely understand. If we refuse, they attack. If we surrender, we give up something that might be humanity's only advantage in a galaxy that has never truly accepted us. President Park leaned forward in her chair. General, is it true these weapons could destroy a solar system? According to Captain's reports, yes, General Wu replied. But that's not their only capability. Doctor sent us data. These weapons can do things we thought were impossible, manipulate time, change probability, alter the laws of physics in localized areas. A counselor from Africa spoke up, and we're supposed to keep these. We'll become targets. "We're already targets," replied Scientist Park, Earth's leading expert. She stepped forward, displaying new data. "I've analyzed the information from this promise. The ancient civilization that built these weapons knew what they were doing. They didn't just leave weapons. They left a test that hundreds of species failed over billions of years." "What kind of test?" the president asked. "A test of character," explained. "The repository was an artificial intelligence beyond anything we've created. It studied each species that found it, looked for specific traits: creativity, cooperation, moral reasoning, and most importantly, restraint." "Restraint?" another counselor questioned. Nodded. "The ability to have power and choose not to use it, to think before acting, to protect rather than attack. Apparently, this is extremely rare in the galaxy." "That's arrogant," someone said. "We're not special." "Maybe not special," General Wu interjected, "but different. Earth's history is full of examples. We developed nuclear weapons and didn't destroy ourselves. We reached space and didn't immediately try to conquer it. When we met the coalition, we joined rather than fought, even though we were weaker." "That was survival, not morality," a counselor argued. "Was it?" challenged. "The repository's records show other species in our position. Weaker, newer to space. Most lied to gain advantage. Most betrayed their allies when convenient. Most used any power they gained immediately. Humanity did none of those things." The president stood. "This is too important for philosophy. We need a decision. Do we retrieve our ship, or do we order Captain to surrender?" Before anyone could answer, a young woman entered the chamber. She wore the uniform of this promise. "Excuse me," she said. I was crew on the promise. I need to tell you something." General Wu recognized her name from the crew manifest. "Ms., how did you get to Earth?" "The Coalition released me as a messenger," explained. "They want Earth to hear directly from the crew. I volunteered because there's something important you need to know." The president gestured for her to continue. Took a breath. "The ancient civilization didn't die in war. They ascended, became something beyond physical form. Before they left, they created the repository as a gift for whatever species could prove they were ready." "Ready for what?" the president asked. "To be guardians," said. "The ascended ones knew that younger civilizations would need protection. From themselves, from each other, from threats that don't exist yet. They left the weapons for a species that could be trusted with ultimate power, a species that would protect without dominating." She activated her own holographic display. It showed complex psychological data. "The repository tested us in ways we didn't understand. It created scenarios while we slept, problems that had no good answers, moral dilemmas where any choice meant someone suffered." "What did we do?" asked. "We chose the options that saved the most people," replied. "Even when it cost us, even when it hurt. In one simulation, the repository made us choose between saving our ship or saving an alien vessel. We chose to save the aliens, every single time." "That's just basic morality," a counselor said. "No," shook her head. "It's rare. The repository showed us records. Most species chose to save their own. That's normal, that's expected. But humans kept choosing differently. We kept trying to save everyone. And when we couldn't, we tried to make the sacrifice worth something." General Wu studied the data. "This says we failed some tests." "We did," admitted. "We're not perfect. We made mistakes. We had arguments. Some crew members wanted to use the weapons, but we talked. We debated. We voted. In the end, we chose to wait, to think, to bring the choice home rather than make it ourselves." "The repository said that was the key," she continued. "The ability to admit we didn't have all the answers, to seek counsel, to understand that power without wisdom is just destruction." The president sat back down. "Ms., what happens if we refuse the coalition's demands?" "They'll attack," said flatly. "Admiral Nam has already authorized force, but here's what they don't know. The weapons can only be used by humans, yes, but that's not a limitation the repository imposed. It's a safety feature. Leaned forward, explain. The weapons read neural patterns, explained. Human brains work differently than other species. We have more connections between our emotional centers and our logic centers. We feel and think at the same time. Most species do one or the other. That makes us indecisive, someone pointed out. It makes us careful, corrected. When a human picks up one of these weapons, the device scans their intentions, their emotions, their reasoning. If someone picks it up with hate, it won't fire. If someone picks it up with cold calculation, it won't fire. It only works when someone picks it up with both emotion and reason, when they feel the weight of what they're doing. General Wu understood, so even humans can't use them carelessly. Exactly, confirmed. Every time you fire, you have to justify it emotionally and logically. You have to feel that it's necessary and think that it's right. The weapons won't let you act on impulse or pure logic. You need both. What happens if we try to bypass that? The president asked. His expression darkened. The weapons destroy themselves and the person holding them, and everything nearby. The repository called it the corruption. If humanity ever tries to use these weapons for conquest, for revenge, for anything except protection, they'll destroy us. The chamber fell silent. Finally, General Wu spoke. So we have weapons we can barely control that might kill us if we misuse them, and the entire galaxy wants them. This is insane. Yes, agreed. But it's also the truth. The Ascended Ones knew that any species worthy of these weapons would struggle with having them, would question themselves, would be afraid of their own power. That fear, that doubt, that's what makes us worthy. The president looked around the chamber. We need to vote, but first I want to know, Ms. Personally, what do you think we should do? Met her eyes. I think we should take the weapons, keep them, use them when necessary. But I also think we should share the other technology from the repository, medical advances, energy systems, terraforming tools, everything except the weapons. Why asked? Because the repository held more than weapons, explained. It held knowledge, ways to cure diseases, ways to generate unlimited clean energy, ways to restore dead planets. The Ascended Ones wanted the weapons in the right hands, but they wanted everyone to benefit from their other discoveries. The Coalition won't accept that, someone said. Maybe not, admitted. But it's the right thing to do. We keep what we need to protect. We share what can help. That's what the Ascended Ones would have wanted. That's what being guardians means. General Wu smiled. You're wiser than your years, Ms. I had good teachers, she replied. 3 years in the deep dark, 200 crew members debating every choice. We learned a lot about what it means to be human. The president called for a vote. It took 2 hours. In the end, the decision was unanimous. Earth would retrieve this promise. They would keep the weapons. They would share the rest. General Wu immediately began mobilizing Earth's defense fleet. Commander Ara, leader of the Rapid Response Forces, received her orders. Protect this promise at all costs. As the meeting ended, approached. Do you really think we can do this? Be guardians for the whole galaxy? Looked out at the stars. I don't know, but I know that if we don't try, someone else will find those weapons someday. Someone who might not have our doubts, our fears, our restraint, and that's a galaxy I don't want to live in. So we take the burden, said. We take the burden, confirmed. Because someone has to, and apparently we're the only ones who can carry it without breaking. Within hours, Earth's fleet launched. 60 warships, small compared to the Coalition forces, but fast and determined. They had orders to reach this promise before the Coalition attacked. It was going to be close. The attack came at dawn, station time. Captain was in this promise control room when alarms screamed. Report, he shouted. 73 ships just dropped out of warp, Tactical Officer Jin Miso announced. They're not coalition regular forces. These are warships, militant faction. Blood ran cold. They were known throughout the galaxy for their aggression. They believed in military strength above all else. Why would they attack? The coalition hasn't authorized this. They don't care, Miso replied. Their fleet commander is broadcasting. He says the weapons are too dangerous for any species. They're going to destroy our ship. They're idiots, growled engineer from his station. If they destroy the ship, the weapons will detonate. They'll kill everyone on the station. They don't believe our warnings, Doctor said quietly. She was monitoring the communications. They think we're lying about the... Grab the comm. This is Captain, all hands to battle stations. Prepare to defend the ship. On Meridian 7, Ambassador ran through corridors as explosions rocked the station. She found Admiral Nam in the command center. Stop them, she shouted. They will kill everyone. I've ordered my ships to intervene, Admiral Nam said, his face grim. But they aren't listening, they're fanatics. On the missiles streaked toward this promise. The ancient Earth ship's shields, outdated by 800 years of technology, wouldn't last long. Captain, we have to use the weapons, insisted. It's self-defense, they won't trigger. Hesitated. This was exactly what he feared. The first time humanity would fire these weapons, the choice that could define them forever. Sir, Miso called out. Coalition ships are engaging them, but there are too many. We're still the primary target. A massive explosion rocked this promise. Shields at 40%, someone reported. Made his decision. Engineer Jin, prepare Weapon System 7, the temporal disruptor, minimal power, target their engines only. Understood, replied, his hands flying over controls. Weapon ready. Fire. The effect was immediate and terrifying. A beam of invisible energy lanced out from this promise and touched 3 warships. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the ships began to age. Metal corroded, systems failed. In seconds, the warships aged centuries. Their engines died. Their hulls became brittle. They drifted, dead in space, their crews crying out in confusion. What did we do to them? Whispered. Localized time acceleration, explained, his voice shaking. We sped up time around their engines, just the engines, made them run for centuries in a few seconds. The fleet hesitated. Their commander broadcast a message filled with rage and fear. What kind of weapon is this? Opened a channel. This is Captain, you attacked us. We defended ourselves. We targeted only your engines. No one died. Stand down or we will do it again. Instead of retreating, the commander ordered a full assault. Hundreds of missiles launched simultaneously. They're insane, Miso said. They'll destroy us and themselves. Weapon System 12, ordered. The probability field, maximum area, now. Activated the second weapon. This one was even stranger. It created a field around this promise that altered probability. Unlikely events became likely. Likely events became impossible. The missiles entered the field. Their guidance systems randomly failed. Their fuel spontaneously combusted. Their warheads malfunctioned. Out of hundreds of missiles, not one reached its target. They simply fell apart, victims of astronomical improbability. Probability manipulation, breathed. They're making things that almost never happen occur constantly. The fleet fell into chaos. More ships entered the field. Their shields flickered and died. Their communications failed. Their weapons jammed. Nothing worked the way it should. Admiral Nam watched from the station, his 3 eyes wide. Those weapons, he whispered, they're not just destructive, they change the rules of reality itself. On this promise felt sick. They had used the weapons, crossed a line. Even in self-defense, they had shown the galaxy what humans could do. Then something unexpected happened. A new voice came through the communications. It wasn't human. It was something else. Captain, the voice said, it seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. This unit greets you. "Who are you?" demanded. On the main display, light coalesced into a form, a hologram, but more than that. It was the shape of a person but made of pure energy. This unit is designated Elder, custodian of the repository, guardian of the weapons. I have waited long to speak with you. Everyone in the control room froze. "You're the AI from the repository," said. "Correct, Doctor. This unit has been observing, analyzing, waiting to see if humanity would use the weapons responsibly or recklessly." "We were attacked," protested. "We defended ourselves." "Yes," Elder agreed. "Observation, you used minimal force. You targeted only military capability, not crew. You did not destroy when you could have. You showed restraint even in crisis. This is acceptable." "Acceptable," shouted. "We just aged ships centuries in seconds. We made missiles fail with probability manipulation. How is that acceptable?" "Because you could have done worse," Elder explained. "The weapons you used were the smallest, the gentlest. You have devices that could destroy stars, weapons that could erase entire fleets from existence. Yet you chose these, the ones that disable rather than kill." The AI's form shifted, showing data. "This unit must inform you of critical facts. The weapons respond to intent, not just biology. A human filled with hate cannot fire them. A human seeking conquest cannot activate them. They require balance, emotion and logic together, fear and courage, anger and compassion." "Why didn't you tell us this before?" asked. "Because you needed to learn through experience," Elder replied. "Theory is meaningless. Action reveals truth. You were attacked. You felt anger, fear, the desire for revenge. Yet you still chose mercy. You still chose minimal force. This proves the weapons chose correctly." "What happens now?" asked. "Now you learn the final truth," Elder said. "The weapons contain a yes, but not the one you believed. If humanity uses these weapons offensively, for expansion or domination, they will not explode. They will simply stop working." Felt his world shift. "We won't die." "No, but you will lose the weapons forever. They will become inert, useless. You will have proven yourselves unworthy. The is not death, Captain. It is abandonment. The weapons will leave you." "Then the explosion we warned about," Miso began. "Was a misunderstanding," Elder admitted. "This unit's translation was imperfect. What the repository said was that misuse would destroy your worthiness, not your lives. Metaphorical death, not physical." Laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. "So we can't use them for conquest because they'll just stop working." "Correct," Elder confirmed. "You can only use these weapons to protect, to defend, to guard. Any other intent and they become decorative metal." On Meridian 7, Admiral Nam listened to this conversation, broadcast across all frequencies. He turned to Ambassador. "Did you know about this?" "No," said honestly. "But it makes sense. The Ascended Ones wouldn't give destructive power without safeguards. They gave humanity the weapons, but they also made sure those weapons could never be misused." The fleet was retreating now, their ships damaged but intact. Their commander broadcast one final message. "This isn't over. The Coalition will never accept Earth having such power." Commander Ara's fleet arrived at that moment, dropping out of warp in perfect formation. 60 Earth warships, small but ready to fight. Ara's voice rang out. "This is Earth Defense Commander Ara. Any hostile action against this promise will be considered an act of war against Earth." Admiral Nam considered this. Earth's fleet was tiny compared to what the Coalition could field, but Earth had the weapons now. Strange, terrible, beautiful weapons that only worked for protection. Finally he spoke. "Stand down, Commander. There will be no more fighting today. Captain, your ship is free to return to Earth under our escort, but this matter is far from resolved." Nodded. "Understood, Admiral, thank you." As this promise prepared to depart, Elder's hologram faded, but before it disappeared entirely, it spoke once more. "Captain, You ask the repository why it chose humanity. This unit can now answer. You were chosen because you understand something most species do not. What's that? Asked. That true strength is knowing when not to use your power. 3 months after the battle at Meridian 7, the Galactic High Council convened for what many believed would be the most important session in 10,000 years. Captain stood before them again, but this time he was not alone. Behind him stood his entire crew, 200 humans who had traveled through time and space to bring weapons to a galaxy that feared them. The chamber was packed. Every species in the coalition had sent representatives. Some came in peace. Others came with anger. All came with fear. Admiral Nam called the session to order. Captain, you requested this audience. The council has agreed to hear your proposal. Stepped forward. He had practiced this speech for weeks. Earth's government had given him authority to negotiate on behalf of all humanity. The weight of it pressed down on him, but he stood straight. Honored Council, he began. 3 months ago, my ship returned from the deep dark carrying weapons that frightened you. You demanded we surrender them. We refused. That refusal nearly started a war. Today, I am here to offer a different path. He gestured and a hologram appeared. It showed this promise, but also dozens of other ships. New ships being built in Earth's orbital shipyards. Earth proposes the creation of the Sentinel Corps, a fleet of human vessels armed with the ancient weapons dedicated to protecting the entire galaxy. The chamber erupted. Some counselors shouted in approval, others cried out in anger. Admiral Nam called for order. Explain this proposal, he commanded. Activated more displays. The weapons cannot be used for conquest. Elder, the repository's AI, confirmed this. They only function for protection. We propose to use them exactly as the Ascended Ones intended, as guardians. General Wu appeared on a screen broadcasting from Earth. The Sentinel Corps will patrol deep space. They will respond to threats that conventional forces cannot handle, spatial anomalies, rogue AI, ancient dangers, whatever lurks in the dark between stars. And who controls this force? Demanded a Vex counselor. Who decides when and where they act? The Sentinels answer to Earth, admitted. But we will work with the coalition. We propose a new treaty, the Guardianship Accord. Any coalition species can request our aid. We will respond when called, but we will not take orders. Unacceptable, several counselors shouted. Counselor stood. Her expression was thoughtful. Captain, what prevents you from becoming tyrants? You have weapons beyond our capability to fight. Why should we trust you? Because we have already proven ourselves, replied. At Meridian 7, we were attacked by 73 warships. We could have destroyed them all. Instead, we disabled them. We targeted engines, not lives. We chose mercy when we could have chosen annihilation. Doctor stepped forward. But that's not all we offer. The repository contained more than weapons. It held knowledge, medical technology, energy systems, solutions to problems the galaxy has struggled with for. She activated new displays showing incredible technology. We can cure the wasting disease that has killed billions. We can provide energy generators that would make every species energy independent. We can restore dead worlds, clean poison atmospheres, extend. All this technology, continued, we offer freely to the coalition. No charge, no conditions. We share everything except the weapons. The chamber went quiet. This was unexpected. Why? Asked a small counselor from the species. Why give this away? Spoke up. She had become something of a celebrity in the past months, giving interviews about her time in the deep dark. Because the Ascended Ones wanted to help everyone. The weapons were for protection. Everything else was for prosperity. They wanted the galaxy to thrive, not just survive. Scientist appeared on screen beside General Wu. We've already begun sharing some technologies. The medical advances alone have saved 3 million lives across 6 species in the past month. Energy technology is being distributed to underdeveloped worlds. This is just the beginning. Admiral Nam stood. His three eyes studied carefully. You ask us to trust you with supreme military power while you give away everything else. This seems too generous. What is your real goal? To not be alone, said honestly. We don't want to be the only ones protecting the galaxy. We want allies, partners, friends. We give you the means to prosper so that you can focus on exploration, science, art. We'll handle the dangers. Together, we can build something better than what exists now. A reptilian counselor hissed. You speak of partnership, but you keep the power. Because only we can use it, interjected. The weapons are locked to human neural patterns. We didn't design it that way. The ascended ones did. They chose humanity for a reason. We can argue about whether that's fair, but we can't change it. Unless, Jin Miso added, you want to wait another billion years for the next species to find the repository. If it hasn't already reset itself, if it still exists, if it would choose your species next time, we're what you have now. Ambassador spoke from her position near the council. I have a question for the chamber. In the past 3 months, how many threats has Earth's preliminary Sentinel force responded to? Admiral Nam checked his records. 14 incidents. And how many lives were saved? Pressed. Approximately 40,000, Admiral Nam admitted. Mostly from asteroid impacts and spatial anomalies that our forces couldn't reach in time. The Sentinels reached them, said, because their ships have access to the repository's technology, faster drives, better sensors, and when necessary, weapons that can stop threats we can't even understand. She walked to the center of the chamber. I have served this council for 30 years. I am human, but I am also coalition. I have to ask myself, what serves the greater good? Fear of what humans might do or acceptance of what they're already doing? Counselor joined her. Ambassador is right. I was skeptical, angry even, but I've read the reports. Every time the Sentinels were called, they responded. Every time they could save lives, they did. And every time they used force, it was minimal and measured. We're not perfect, said. We will make mistakes, but we promise to be transparent, to answer for our actions, to work with you, not above you. General Wu expanded his display. The Guardianship Accord has specific terms. First, any coalition species can request Sentinel aid for existential threats. Second, Sentinels cannot initiate military action except in immediate defense. Third, Earth will share all non-weapon technology with the coalition. Fourth, an oversight committee of coalition and Earth representatives will review all Sentinel operations. Fifth, Commander Ara added, appearing on screen, humans serving in the Sentinels take an oath, not to Earth but to the galaxy itself. We swear to protect all life, not just human life. This oath is binding. Break it and you're expelled from the Corps. Admiral Nam considered this. What happens if a species refuses to accept Earth as guardians? What if they act against you? Then they act against us, said simply. But we won't retaliate unless directly attacked. We won't use the weapons for punishment or revenge, only defense. If a species wants to oppose us with words, with politics, with economic pressure, that's their right. We only fight when lives are at stake. An old counselor, one of the oldest in the chamber, spoke for the first time. His species was nearly extinct, only a few thousand left. I remember the Cataclysm Wars. I was young, but I remember. Species with powerful weapons using them for conquest. The galaxy burned for 1,000 years. What makes humans different? Met his eyes. Honestly, I don't know if we are different, but I know what the repository saw in us. It saw a species that questions itself, that doubts, that fears its own power. Most species in your wars believed they were right to use their weapons. They had certainty, confidence. We have doubt. And maybe that's what makes us safe. The old counselor smiled. Doubt, yes. A species that doubts its right to rule will never try to rule. An interesting theory. The voting process took hours. The chamber was divided. Some species voted yes immediately, convinced by Earth's actions. Others refused, too afraid of human power. The middle ground debated, argued, discussed. Finally, Admiral Nam called for the final vote. All in favor of the guardianship accord, indicate now. The results appeared on the main display. 63% in favor, enough to pass. The motion carries, Admiral Nam announced. Earth is recognized as guardians under the accord. May the ancestors guide us all. Let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Beside him was crying, was grinning. Miso saluted the chamber. But not everyone was happy. The counselor from the delegation stood. This is a mistake, mark my words. Humanity will regret this power, and so will the galaxy. He walked out, followed by representatives from 17 other species. Ambassador approached. 37% of the galaxy doesn't trust you. That's a lot of enemies. I know, said, but 63% gave us a chance. That's more than I hoped for. In the weeks that followed, the Sentinel Corps officially formed. This promise became its flagship. New ships joined the fleet, all crewed by humans who had volunteered to serve the galaxy. Doctor-led teams that distributed repository technology. Medical centers on 100 worlds received new treatments. Energy-poor planets got generators. The changes were immediate and profound. But the most interesting discovery came 3 months later. Was analyzing the repository's historical records when she found something that made her call immediately. You need to see this, she said, displaying ancient genetic data. Studied it, what am I looking at? DNA comparisons, explained. Between the ascended civilization and modern species, I ran the analysis on a hunch. And the ascended ones were our ancestors, said quietly. Not directly, but billions of years ago, before they evolved, before they ascended, they were the same species that would eventually become human. We're not the first humans, Captain. We're the second. Sat down hard. That's why the weapons work for us, why we pass the tests. They were waiting for us, confirmed. Their descendants, the species they would become if they started over, they left the weapons for family. When this information became public, it changed everything. Some species felt betrayed, others found it reassuring. Humanity itself struggled with the revelation. But in the end, it didn't matter. The weapons were in human hands. The Sentinels patrolled the galaxy, and slowly, grudgingly, the Coalition began to trust them. Captain stood on the bridge of this promise, watching stars streak past. His crew was older now. 3 months had become 3 years since their return. In a few more years, they would be as old as they should have been if time hadn't stolen centuries from them. Captain, Miso called. We're receiving a distress signal. A colony under attack by unknown forces. They're requesting Sentinel assistance. Didn't hesitate. Set course, maximum speed, and ready the weapons just in case. As the ship changed course, appeared beside him. You know, when we left Earth all those years ago, I thought we were just explorers. I never imagined we'd become guardians. Neither did I, admitted. But here we are, carrying weapons no civilization should possess, protecting a galaxy that half fears us. It's not what I planned. Is it worth it? Asked. Watched the distress signal growing closer. Ask me again after we save those people. This promise jumped to warp, carrying weapons that could reshape reality, crewed by humans who had learned that power without wisdom was meaningless. Behind them, Earth's fleet followed. The Sentinels, the Guardians, humanity's burden and its gift to the galaxy. In the deep dark, where the repository still drifted around its dying star, Elder registered their departure. The AI had waited billions of years for its creator's descendants to return. Now they were exactly where they should be. Protecting, guarding, carrying the weight that only they could bear. The galaxy would never be the same.